Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, the 30th of September. October starts tomorrow. Wow, time is flying. um, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about fully yet. What I want to do is just give an update on where things are at with me and, getting onto hospice and all that stuff. But I also want to talk about something that's important to me. So this will be kind of a one-off. But it's important to me because having been born with a congenital heart defect and having had this all my life and really being among the first group of people my age to have survived to where I'm at now. There aren't many who were born before me who are alive now. So there's a couple things I want to say about that and the way medicine treats us, and meaning the congenital heart people with congenital heart. So somehow I'm going to fit all that in a little. Anyway, I'm going to try to just say a couple things about that too. So anyway, I talked to hospice today. They called me. I was referred today, and they called me today, just on the phone. So fortunately, the person who I spoke to was very nice and very knowledgeable. She seemed to be, and and we went through all the things that are going on, and what she was telling me about hospice, and I had to tell her then I was been an RN for almost 40 years, so we could cut some of the, make a little bit of a shorthand out of it. So what it boils down to, I was telling her about all my new symptoms and how they're coming on rapidly now, and that I really feel an urgency to be, taken into hospice. I mean, in the hospice program, so that I can have all that kind of support available, and so on and so forth. So I'm waiting to hear back. She had to run it by her medical director and all of that stuff. So I'm waiting to hear back. And after I spoke with her, or even while I was speaking with her, I kind of got like, oh my gosh, I am actually speaking to someone for hospice for me, for myself. I've probably done that 100 times for other people, but for me, I'm talking to this person about getting hospice set up for me. And it was kind of like, wow, a bit of a reality slap in the face, almost. Not a bad thing at all. I'm just saying, it was like, I can't believe this is happening. Really, even after all this. But so, each little step along the way, no matter what is coming, no matter what you think is coming, no matter how much ever experience I've had in the past with this, that, or the other, when it's actually happening and it's you, it's really quite a different experience. So anyway, I will probably hear back from them tomorrow, I hope. But part of why it was also a little bit like, how people say they don't want to do a will because if they do a will, that's sort of tempting the fates and then they'll die, which we all know, I hope we all know, is utter nonsense. So talking to hospice, it came into my mind that, oh gosh, now I'm talking to hospice, so that means I'm going to die like right away. and I might. No, I don't know. But the point is, talking to hospice isn't what's going to make me die. what I'm dying of. It's what's going to make me die. But anyway, it's funny the stuff that goes through your head. It's just like, well, if I get on hospice now, that means I'm going to die any day, any minute. Well, yeah, it's possible, really possible. So, yeah, every step just makes it all the more real. That this life is coming to an end. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's where that's at. I haven't been going out at all, just staying in the apartment building. I didn't go out of my apartment today except to go up on the roof deck to sit and meditate with my neighbor. That's it. Didn't go anywhere else, do anything else today. Did very little even at home. Even took a couple of extra naps. So that's where that's at. So by the end of this week, or hopefully by even Wednesday, it'll be all set up and ready to go, hospice. So the other thing that's on my mind is to talk about, for those people like myself with congenital heart disease, or friends, family, or others you may know with it. Here's the thing that's been, I've experienced it literally all my life, but I want to talk about this. When you're born with a heart defect, you're already starting out at a disadvantage. Let's face it, that's just the case. Your heart is never going to be normal, so-called normal. It can't possibly be, because it has literally parts missing, and parts that had to be replaced or patched, or like I've had 2 valves. One was a tissue valve, it was a pig valve, and the valve that they put into me now is I think it's the vein of a cow. So I have 2 valves that were not even human in my heart, and a patch put over a big hole in the lower chambers. And so my heart was never normal, literally, from my embryonic development on. And the thing of it is, so I have had heart disease my entire life, from the moment I was born, even before I was born. But after I've lived with this my whole life, and I've been affected by it my whole life. Even after I had my surgeries, all of them, I was never normal. I never was. I never was able to do the things other people did. For one of the things is that my first surgery, which wasn't even the correction of the stuff that was missing, but the first surgery was just palliative and meant to be just palliative. But for 10 years of my life, I lived with a completely abnormal heart for 10 years. And in those 10 years, it affected my whole body. It did. I didn't grow. I didn't gain weight. I couldn't, I didn't get musculature the way other kids did. I was so far behind in my physical development that, really unbelievably behind. And then the palliative operation, which was in 1963, didn't fix the heart parts that were, broken. It just, like I said, was palliative. It connected so that there would be a little more oxygen getting into my system. And yes, it did make a big difference in my life. It made a big difference from not being able to do anything, just about, to being able to, I could go to school. I could go to school. I could go out and play a little bit with the kids because I couldn't do that before. But there were still so many things I couldn't do. I could ride a bike, but not very far. I could walk, but not very far. I would go to school. I would get get up the steps to the classroom. I couldn't go out for recess or any of that stuff because then I'd have to go up the steps again, and it was just too much. So that was after the first surgery. After the repair, when I was almost going on 16, where they patched the hole, and they didn't even give me a new valve at that time. They just basically made a hole so that the blood would flow to the pulmonary artery and stuff without being blocked. So it was so that actually created additional problems that I then had until I was 44. So my body still was working a lot harder than other people's bodies, other people's hearts, in different ways that that affected me. But after that surgery in 1969, I was able to grow. I actually started going through puberty at almost 16 years of age because I was getting oxygen. And I could do more than I did, but I still couldn't do everything. I could go a little further with the bike. I could go a little further with the walking, but I just never had the energy, the stamina, the muscle mass. I just was never normal, ever in my life, because of how this stuff as I was growing up. So then I had the valve put in when I was in 1998. I was 44 because I was having terrible problems, heart failure and all that kind of stuff. But it took 2 years for the doctors to figure out what was wrong with me because they couldn't figure it out. They didn't know because they didn't know until they sent me to one doctor that they knew, who was a congenital heart specialist in California. If I hadn't been living in California at that time, I would bet anything I wouldn't be sitting here now, because he's the one who knew what to do. I was literally going to this Beverly Hills cardiologist for 2 years, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then I saw the congenital heart doctor, which was a brand new specialty then for adults, who had it figured out in my first meeting with him that I needed a valve. Not a replacement, a valve. So I got that valve, and it made a day, but here I was back in heart failure back then because of the long-standing problem that I had from the second surgery, which did help but created additional problems, like I said. So then I had this. I was getting sick, having arrhythmias, all atrial fibrillation and all this stuff. And so then I had the valve put in, which helped it, which took then a year to recover, to even being able to go back to work and live kind of normal. So I guess what I'm saying, and I think I'm getting it through, is that my heart and my body have never been normal. But in the last 20 some years of my life, when I've had problems with my heart, and I've gone to see adult congenital heart doctors, I keep getting this thing over and over. Well, your heart's fine. Your heart is fine. Everything's normal. Excuse me? And I was, every time, I don't know why, at first I was like, what? No, I've never had a normal heart. Nothing's normal. What are you talking about? But they would just say, well, the numbers show this and this and this. And Everything looks fine to us on paper, without taking into any consideration that I've lived up until this time I'm seeing you. So by the last time I was having problems, I was in my 40s, 50s, 50s. And so we don't know, everything looks fine. Take into account that at that time, for 50 years, I've lived with a heart that was not normal, okay? And all the effects that and all the surgeries had on my body. So that's happened for the last years. And then when I got the heart failure again in 2010 starting, and didn't get diagnosed till 2012 because there was literally, I was told, there's nothing wrong with your heart. Everything looks normal. Can you imagine being told that? And I'm like, I know something's wrong. I know. I don't understand. I couldn't fathom why they couldn't figure that out. And again, as I did tell in an earlier video, then, after 2 years of going through that nonsense, finally, let's do a heart catheterization and come to find out, oh, well, yeah, you have heart failure. We didn't know. We didn't know. I'm not kidding you. I'm like, yes, you did. I told you. And so, and even ever since then, then I got the other valve in 2022. And before that, they couldn't figure out what's wrong. Everything looks fine. Your echo looks fine. I will never hear that word again in my life because I will never have another echo. But I can't tell you how many times I've been told, your echo looks fine. Well, I'm not an echo. I'm a human being. My heart's not a picture on your stupid paper. I'm a human being. And my heart is a dynamic, living thing. And so am I. So, and then suddenly, well, wow, your valve is not fine. That was like 6 months after being told, everything's normal. It's not your heart. Guess what? Again, it was my heart. Okay? 2022. Got the valve. It did help. It helped significantly at the time. And then, as time has gone on, I had a bump up at that time, or not further crashing, let's put it that way. So then things continued to go downhill after maybe 6 months. And then back to the congenital heart doctor. Well, we don't know. Everything's fine. Your heart is fine. There's nothing wrong. I'm like, didn't you tell me this like 2 or 3 times before? There's nothing wrong with my heart. It's normal. And it wasn't, it isn't. Now, I don't know how many times you have to have egg on your face to stop and think. Maybe we should pay attention to him, because what they do is they can't figure anything out like right away. The paper looks good again. And so it must be something wrong with you, me. They begin to treat you like you're kind of crazy. They would always be asking me, are you depressed? Do you feel depressed? And I'd be like, I'm not depressed. I'm aggravated that I can't get help, but I'm not depressed. So here's the point of all this long story. People born with heart defects, and I don't, I'm sure other things that people are born with or have chronic conditions. You don't, I've had it my whole life. It didn't ever go away, ever. So you can't treat me or look at me or think about me as compared to any average person who never went through any of this. You cannot compare me to a normal heart. You can't. You can't compare my body and how it responds to things to a normal person, whatever the heck that means. But you know what I'm saying? They don't take into consideration that I have a person in front of me now who has had this condition their entire life. And they've gone through these periods of time where they've had issues and problems, and it took sometimes a couple of years to figure it out. But wow, you actually did have a problem. And so the problem is that they don't understand that I'm going on 71, and most of the people, there aren't a lot of people my age, like I said, who have had this their whole lives and who are still living. So so the point is to the doctors, you don't have an answer because you don't know. You don't have an answer because you don't know. And neither do I, and neither does anybody else at this point. So please have the humility, have the courage to say, I'm not going to tell you nothing's wrong with you. I'm going to tell you I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because you're somebody we haven't seen very much of. We've seen a lot of kids with congenital heart disease, and we're getting really, really good at that. But we're not good at dealing with older adults with congenital heart disease. We're not good at it because we don't know what we're seeing. And most of everything we're seeing it for the first time. And that's the truth of it. And if I could have a doctor say to me, David, I believe you. I believe you. I believe you 100%. And all the tests we do, and so on and so forth, compare you to a normal person. Or to kids, even worse, or very young adults. But we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what you look like, how heart failure looks in somebody like you, or so on and so forth, or whatever the case, or lung problems that I've had come because of my heart condition. We don't know. We don't know. And I know that's really hard to hear, but we don't know. And I'm not doubting for 1 second what you're telling me is true. What your experience is true. And I wish that I knew exactly what to do, but I don't. So maybe we'll just have to continue to work together and see how it pans out. But right now, science doesn't have anything. It's like somebody with cancer who went through this chemo, that chemo, radiation, this, that, the other, and it's not responding. We don't have anything else right now. Maybe in a year or two we will. Or maybe there'll be even for heart conditions, there'll be a clinical trial, which I've never been asked to be a part of, ever. So that means there's not a lot of research, certainly not in older people. So my point is that when we get to a certain age, big part of it is age, they're not looking at us. They're not looking, and I'm not going to say they don't care. I don't know. I don't know. Some of them do, some of them don't. But for God's sakes, have the humility to say, I don't know. I really just don't know. I could handle that. I could gladly handle you saying to me, I believe every word you're telling me, and it very likely has something to do with your heart, but I don't know. And we'll keep looking. Or we'll just have to wait and see, but I don't have anything else to do. But I do believe you. I've never, ever heard that. Never. In my life. Unless the paper, the test, correlated with what I was telling them, they didn't believe it. They just didn't believe it, apparently. So I'm saying this to doctors and nurses and medical people. Don't blow off your patients just because you don't know what to do. You're at a loss. Don't put it on us, because that's what I've experienced for the greater part of my adult life. Okay? I really have. And I just, before I die, I just want to make sure that goes out there, because I'm dying. And I'm dying, a big, huge part of it is because of 71 years of heart disease. Open your minds, please. Open your minds. Listen to all of us. And I wouldn't be saying this too if I didn't know tons of people, other adult congenital heart patients, people who go through the exact same thing that I'm describing right here and right now. I've heard this story for years, and I've experienced it for years. And I'm talking about with a congenital heart specialist. That's what's so frustrating, because there's no one else to go to. Everything's specialized now. So if you go to that specialist who does that thing and only that thing, and they can't help, they're telling you nothing's wrong. Yeah, that feels good. So anyway, I'm, as you can tell, I'm a bit passionate about this. And it's part of why I stopped treatment. Because, you can't fix me now. And for me, it's going to be too late. It's too late. I'm not going through anything else. I don't want to be your guinea pig. I don't. If I was younger, it could very well, it was always a different story. When I was younger and could see some possibility that it could get better, I did everything. But now I know you can't fix what's going on, and my heart is just not going to sustain my life, along with everything else in my body that's been affected by all, life, my heart and life, for 71 years, almost. So for all of you congenital heart folks out there like me, I believe you, I hear you, I know. We're not making this shit up. We're not. I know you're not. I know I'm not. It's just that we're not. Please understand, don't let them make you feel like there's something wrong with your mind, that you're crazy, that you're a malingerer, that you're looking for attention. For who wants this kind of attention? I mean, I don't. So I put this out there to my fellow congenital heart CHDers, we call each other, that if you're young enough, hang in there. New stuff will come along. And I would say, don't ever feel bad if you want to say, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And I don't mean kill yourself. I'm saying I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. Let nature take its course. You know? I don't think anything's wrong with doing that, if that's what you want to do. So, that's it. This went on a little longer than I had hoped. But anyway, I wasn't even going to publish this on my regular page without a disclaimer, the thing this is about. But no, this is about my whole journey. That's what all the videos have been about since I started this, been about my journey. And this is my journey. This is this is why I'm here. So I'm going to let it stand as is. So I hope that this helps somebody who's in a situation like I'm in. I hope this helps maybe family members, and I really hope that some medical people will hear this and at least pay attention to how you speak to your patients and the words you use, because, man, they make a big difference. Okay. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And I'll let you know when I hear from hospice and what's going on. Thanks. Good night.